This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, Rusty back here with your latest Meteo Mundo forecast. This is going to cover the forecast for early on Friday morning. In this video, we're going to really focus on that disturbance in the Western Caribbean and the impacts it's going to start to bring to Central America. It's already beginning to ramp up, but the flooding rain potential for portions of Central America. So we'll look at that. I'll certainly cover the rest of the Caribbean and the Bahamas, but look for another video later today that will really get even more in depth in other areas outside of this disturbance. But I really want to come back on because we're just starting to really begin to see some of that heavier rain move into the Central American coastline. And that's going to be a big story throughout the next couple of days. And look, I love coming back on here. Look, if you don't know my background, I was a television meteorologist for 25 years, and I hated only having 3 minutes to talk about the weather when sometimes you needed 5. Maybe sometimes you only needed 2 minutes. But in this format, I come on as often as I need to give you guys the updated information. So let's look at that. And as I zoom in, if you want to do me a favor and hit that like button, I appreciate it. Again, you want the updated forecasts throughout the Caribbean and the Bahamas, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you. So there's a very limited opportunity that this is going to become a depression. More than likely, this is just going to stay as a disturbance as it moves closer and closer to the coastline of Central America. Now, it's brought some heavy rain through the Western Caribbean. We've had some heavy downpours in Jamaica. I've had a lot of you comment in the last video that you didn't get much rain, if any at all, and others said they had some very heavy rain. I can tell you the core of the rain, the heaviest rain, is moving away from Jamaica. So in general, we'll be drying out, or if you didn't get any rain for it today, we'll be staying dry. But I do expect some heavier showers for portions of the Cayman Islands as we get into early on Friday morning. And then we're starting to see that first slug of moisture move in. Now, this is the enhanced satellite imagery, but underneath this cloud coverage for the northern coastline of Nicaragua and into Honduras, we're really starting to see that rain move in. And we've had some heavier showers along coastal areas of Belize. Look, all of Central America, even down towards Panama, Costa Rica, is going to get some rain out of this, but I am concerned about, again, the potential for some excessive rainfall, especially for Honduras and the eastern sides of Guatemala and in Belize. So that's what the satellite imagery looks like here. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a quick look at what the water vapor imagery looks like from this enhanced satellite. So again, it's an amazing abundant amount of moisture here out of this system. Let me get rid of that yellow area so you can really clearly see. Again, greens on this imagery is moisture-laden air. Red is dry air. Do you really see a lot of red? There's only a little bit of dry air just west of that broad center of circulation, but look at all of the moisture that's going to be moving into Central America. The flood threat will just continue to get elevated in some areas. Now, it's going to be very area dependent, okay? It's going to be hard to talk in broad terms the areas that could potentially see some flooding issues, but we will discuss where I do feel like we're going to see the best opportunity for some of that heaviest rain. So we'll go back to our GFS model here. I've been showing it to you consistently for the week. This is over the next 5 days. You're going to continue to see a very weak disturbance, but a very heavy rainmaker moving into Central America through this Friday morning, all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And again, the progression from east to west continues on the model, meaning that at this point in time, we don't see a big recurve of this moisture back up to the north. That again continues to dry out the northern sides of the Yucatan. Doesn't mean Cancun and Cozumel won't have some rain, but it does look like the heaviest showers stay in Central America, then actually move off into the Eastern Pacific. So let's kind of start to break down this time frame here. I'm going to let it get right to the beginning of the model. I'm going to freeze it and we'll zoom in. Now, the very interesting thing is the GFS model the last several days has painted on this bullseye of heavy rain along the northern coast of Honduras, far eastern Guatemala, southern Belize, and it continues to show that solution, and the European model agrees with it as well. So I'll show you the rainfall totals out of the models, but again, you can just see how there's not nearly as much rain as you go to the south, but there just seems to be this huge moisture axis from east to west. So we're talking about places like San Pedro Sula, the far eastern sides of Guatemala, obviously the islands like Roatan would be impacted, and then eventually into coastal Belize, including Belize City, to get some of that very heavy rain. Now, the rainfall totals will probably be highest with this disturbance right along the coastline. And again, you know, as we move through time, so again, this is going to be early Friday morning the 3rd. The rain continues throughout Friday, Saturday the 4th into Sunday the 5th, and again, on and off rain, maybe even a few showers on Monday, but I hope we're wrapping up the heaviest rain by then. Then as you get inland, you're obviously dealing with much higher terrain in places like Tegucigalpa and even towards San Salvador and Guatemala City. Those areas should not see the heavy rain that the coastline does, but because you're talking about elevated terrain, mudslides become a potential issue. Now, again, the one thing I got to tell you guys is you have to check in with your local officials and your local government for any flood advisories or statements or any watches, warnings, anything like that that's issued for your area, because those are going to be updating very, very quickly in time. And again, for any emergency preparedness, you need to check in with your local officials. But again, the potential for this heavy flood threat is going to be with us here in the areas that I just mentioned. Now, we'll look at that total precipitation again from the GFS model. And it has, again, been very consistent about painting some very excessive rainfall totals on the northern coastline of Honduras, eastern sides of Guatemala, and again into portions of Belize. So we'll let this run out the 5 days here real quick, and we'll just kind of run up Central America here and kind of take a look at those areas. So again, we can query this. I'll pull it back out into time. I do want to start just back down south real quickly here, okay? So again, just to mention that this is, we're focusing in on one area, but there will be several inches of rain throughout Central America. 2-3 inches in Panama. Same thing up towards Costa Rica. Get to San Jose, they could get maybe close to a half foot of rain. Again, there could be some exceptional rainfall in some other areas far away from, you know, kind of where the bullseye of the most prolific rain is going to be. Managua, maybe 3-4 inches of rain. Tegucigalpa, a little bit less. But again, the higher terrain, it doesn't take as much rain to cause issues there. Guatemala City, which had a fair amount of rain out of Pilar. The Eastern Pacific storm will get additional rain, of course, with this system as well, but some extremely high rainfall totals that the GFS model is painting on right along the coastline of Honduras. And then you get up into the far eastern sides of Guatemala. Again, you get inland just a little bit, 5-6 inches of rain. And now the model's going up a little bit in Belize City. So we'll have to monitor the situation there, anywhere from Belize City to the south. Now, again, because there's not much of a curve north, we start to see the rain totals lower a bit as you get towards Cancun and Cozumel. Again, doesn't mean they're not going to be wet over the weekend and early into Monday, at least in a scattered variety, but the rain totals shouldn't be excessive up in the Yucatan. It is going to be Central America, the areas that I mentioned, with the most concern for the potential for the high flooding threat. So that's the GFS model here. Let me just show you. Again, I'm just going to click on a couple of different points so you kind of get an idea here. So just feel this out, right? This is the GFS model. When I switch over to the European model, you're going to see a lot of the same areas are about the same. So this is the broader brush, the kind of the more widespread, all of Central America. The rainfall totals over the next 5 days in inches. Again, as we get towards those browns and almost towards those purples, you're looking at 8 to 10 inches of rain. And it's the same areas the GFS has. Coastal Honduras, the eastern sides of Guatemala, southern sides of Belize, maybe as far north as Belize City, for that pocket of 8, 10, maybe 12 inches of rain. Now, I'm able to zoom in and put the numbers on here of the European model in millimeters, and it's virtually the same from the last time I showed you. The last time the model had 119 millimeters of rain in Belize City. This time it has 122, which is basically the same. We don't have that 275 millimeter total near San Pedro Sula, but still 224, 225, even inland towards 200 plus millimeters of rain. Obviously, this is excessive rainfall for these areas. So if you live in these areas, please make sure you stay aware. I mean, I've had reports of the rain already moving in. It's beginning, but it will continue in earnest through the remainder of our Friday and into the weekend as well. So that's going to be the situation with this. It is going to be the rain out of this system. That's going to be the big, possibility for any problems. It's something that I'm going to keep a very close eye on for the weekend ahead. And of course, in future videos, we'll have all the reports for you. So again, I mentioned because of the more east to west movement, we're not going to have as much rain up in Cancun and Cozumel. For the rest of the Caribbean, we're drying out in Jamaica. And again, I know some of you didn't have a lot of rain. Others said, Rusty, I got some downpours. So obviously it's been a little bit scattered in nature. Not a lot of rain the next couple of days over Hispaniola. We'll start to see some rain return in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the rest of the Lesser Antilles, especially again down into portions of the Windward Islands. It's very interesting. It's not a tropical wave by any means, but moisture kind of gathering in the Eastern Caribbean could slip back towards the east, kind of an unusual trajectory of this rain here on the GFS model, but it's been consistent painting on showers here. So we're going to see that rain chance in places like Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados up towards Anguilla continue to rise Sunday and into early next week. So I'm going to highlight that a lot coming up as well. And I have to mention what's happening in the Bahamas. Again, we have had some gale force conditions there, some extremely strong winds, and a lot of heavier rain in portions of the Bahamas. We had a very tight pressure gradient behind our cold front. The winds have been whipping. We've had 25, 30, and even 35 knot winds across the Bahamas, which has led to those gale force conditions for us here. As a matter of fact, let me switch over to the rain product here. Want to show you that high resolution model real quick and just look at the next 48 hours for the Bahamas, because again, we're going to get a fair amount of shower activity continuing here, and these are going to be wind swept showers. It's going to be a very kind of windy, somewhat wet Friday for the central and the northwest side of the Bahamas. We'll still see some showers down the southeastern sides, but most of the moisture is now moving up to the north. And there are going to be pockets of very heavy rain out of this as well. One story is the rain, but I got to tell you, the other story is the wind. My, oh my, have we had some very strong gusts. As a matter of fact, they're going to see more wind in the Bahamas than what Central America is going to see wind-wise out of that disturbance. And I tell you, that's exactly what happened on Thursday. So it's going to be happening throughout the day on Friday as well. You're going to see these winds and gusts go over 30 knots. And that's what we had, especially offshore waters. But even in the islands, we're going to get some of these, breezes that come through in that 25, 30 knot range. That will be around at least through tomorrow. Then on Saturday, the winds will begin to relax just a little bit. That is good news. One quick look here at what's happening across the rest of the area here. Going to switch over again just to the overall rain. Want to look at that real quick here, total precipitation. And again, we'll go out a few days for us here, put this into motion. And again, there's some rain that's going to stay in the Atlantic Basin. That's not a tropical wave, but eventually here, again, we'll start to pick up some of those rainfall totals on our chart into 1 to 2, 3 inches of rain in portions of the Lesser Antilles. So that will be the next area here early next week that we'll be watching for some heavier rain to work its way back into the area. Okay, so again, we'll be continuing to monitor what's happening with this disturbance. Now, I also want to mention before we get out of here that again, we are running our live stream, this system right here, nearly 24 hours a day. If you go to the live tab, this will fly you all around the Caribbean and the Bahamas, giving you real-time updated information, satellite imagery, radar data, tropical tracks, real-time temperatures. So check out that live stream if you want updates in between these videos. And a lot of folks kind of pop in and pop out, just get that latest information in between when I come back on. And I'll see you shortly, friends. Again, I appreciate you liking the video. It helps out the channel a lot. And again, you want the latest forecast, make sure you subscribe here to Meteo Mundo. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.